I'm going to talk about bears. In the interest of full disclosure, when I was young, when I was a kid, I went camping quite a bit, mostly with the Boy Scouts all the way through high school, first year of college. But then I was an adult, and I married, and I had children, and I realized I no longer had to hike into the woods for hardship and aggravation. So in the ensuing decades, not a lot has changed out there, especially with bears. And I'd had some experiences with them back in my camping days. And one of the things, if you haven't had an up-close and personal relationship with a bear in his own territory, they are not the monsters you sometimes see in the movies, and they are also not the cuddly, wisecracking characters you see in cartoons. What bears are, in this part of the world, the black bear is the apex predator. He is the top of the food chain, and they know it. And that's why they don't really have any, they kind of look down on us, because the only thing we have to offer them is our garbage, and we try to keep them out of it. So they don't need us. And so when we went hiking, if we'd see a bear, it was okay to watch them for a while. It was okay to take photographs as long as you maintain a safe distance. And the way you calculate a safe distance is you realize they can run faster than you can, and you need some lead time. So if you've got enough of the head start to get to a bear-proof place, that's the safe distance to deal with it. But 99% of the time, we could watch them on our trips and then walk away, and there's no problem. The exception is when you make a camp, which is where I had my fun. We made a camp, and we're setting up, and over about 20, 30 feet away, was a rock pile. And at some point in the past, somebody had tossed their garbage onto the rock pile. You could still see the old bottles, old cans. It hadn't been recently, but the bears had learned that, hey, there's stuff here sometimes. And so they kept coming back to see if anybody would repeat that activity. And we were setting up, and they came back, or at least one, no, there were two of them, came back over. And now you don't want bears around when you prepare food, because they're no help at all. And you don't want them around when you're eating, because their table manners are atrocious. And you don't want them around when you're sleeping, and I'll let you finish that for yourselves. So how do you get rid of the bears? Well, now, I had read all I could about wild animals when I was a kid. That was a big thing for me. And one article had stuck with me, said that if you want to move bears away, you pick up two rocks and you bang them together, because that kind of high-pitched clicking sound is something they can't stand, and they will leave. And so I did that on this occasion, and I did it also in a similar instance a year later, and I can report now that the bears don't read those articles. Ignored the whole thing completely. So I did the fallback, which is yelling and throwing things. Now, if you're ever in a situation like that, you don't want to throw anything too hard at a bear or anything too heavy, because a bear in pain is unpredictable. The idea is just to be annoying. And as a teenager, that was what I specialized in. So that was good. And so I'm throwing sticks and pebbles and yelling and so forth. And now the bear is not going to run away, because he's the apex predator. And he's not like some lesser animal. So he's going to ignore it completely. Little pebbles bouncing off his fur, he doesn't care. And after he's saved face, hanging around for a few minutes, then he decides he's bored with the area and walks away. That's what happened to us twice with the bears. There was another incident when I was on the Appalachian Trail with the troop. Now I was 18. I was about to get out of the Scouts. And so I was 18. I was one of the older boys, but I wasn't the leader on this hike. We were down the Blue Ridge in the Carolinas, and gorgeous. If you've never been on the Appalachian Trail, put it on your bucket list. It's a wonderful place to hike sometimes. And we're up there on the ridge line, and the whole world's underneath you. And periodically along the trail, they have campsites set up where you can camp. And it's a wide place. You can pitch a tent, you can build a fire, and so forth. And we hadn't seen any bears all day, although they certainly exist there. And so we came to camp, and we made our dinner. Now, what they'll tell you and the brochures and whatnot is after you've prepared your food, you should take the bottles, the cans, the wrappers, and all you got, and put it back in your backpack and take it down the hill and dispose of it properly. What sometimes they don't mention is that if you put all of these things that have now been opened in your backpack, the aromas from what was in them now permeates everything in the pack. And a bear might notice this. And they don't like being pranked that way, thinking there's food there and there's not. So the idea is you take all that stuff and you put it in the fire and you burn all the food out of it. Then you take the cans and you mash them flat and you put it all in a plastic bag and take them away, because then there's no odors. So we did that. We did all that. Now we're going to have food for the next day and so forth. So what we did is our leader had like a laundry bag, and we took the laundry bag and we put and I called the boys over, put your food in here, and we're going to tie a rope around it, throw the rope over a tree limb, and hoist it up about 15 feet off the ground. Now the bears can't get to it. Weren't good. But I noticed not all the boys were participating. Not my job. Leader was in charge of this, so I'm not going to tell them what to do. What I did tell them is I said, don't take a granola bar or something into your sleeping bag with you for a midnight snack, because bears also like midnight snacks, and there's not enough room for the both of you in that bag. So at that point, we did not have to sleep in tents that night, because at some of these places, they have a lean-to shelter, which is open on 3 sides and goes from the ground at an angle. And inside is a shelf they make out of horizontal logs spaced about 18, 24 inches apart. And so that makes like bunk areas stretched across as a heavy gauge wire mesh. And you can sleep there side by side, about space for about, I don't know, 8 or 10 people. And so we got in there and we're sleeping with our feet toward the opening, and everything's quiet. We go to sleep. About the middle of the night, I wake up and I hear some scratching that did not seem to be human. And so I reach for my flashlight. I always sleep with a flashlight within arm's reach. Even today, it's a good thing to do. So I pick up my flashlight and I point it toward the opening. No bears. Okay, that's good. Look around the boys. They're all asleep on this side. They're asleep over there. No bears. That's good. There's still noise. And I look up at the rafters, and there are mice. These are not the mice you find in your house, those little battleship gray critters. No, these were every color of the mouse rainbow. They were browns and beiges and whites and blacks and light gray and pintos, and they were running back and forth on all of the rafters. Hundreds of mice looking for those backpacks. And then I look over my head to where we put the other backpacks. Some of them were hanging from the rafters, some were behind their heads. And there's another parade going back there. I mean, this was a carnival of mice. They were all... My first instinct was to wake everybody and scare them away, but then we'd have to have someone stay up all night to watch for the mice, and we're going to have to hike all day tomorrow. And I'd never seen anything like this before in my life, and it was just fascinating, and I didn't particularly want to scare them away. And also I thought, this would be a great lesson for the boys. We told them to take their food out. And as it turned out, everybody who had left any food in their bags had it ruined, in whole or in part. But mice got into absolutely everything. They were very good. And so they learned that lesson. But I learned a larger lesson too. The takeaway was that in life, we worry about the bears and we plan for them, but at the end of the day, it's usually the mice that get you.